Invasive species are a huge topic right now and will continue to be so for the foreseeable future. Not only do they destroy native habitats and lower diversity, but they can cost homeowners and the government a lot of money. Today I wanted to talk about a species that I think is the worst invasive tree that we have in the United States. This tree was estimated by the state of Pennsylvania to cost upwards of $324 million of potential damage per year. Today we're talking about the Tree of Heaven, scientific Ailanthus altissima, and why it's so destructive. The Tree of Heaven has been in the United States since 1794 when it was brought over from Asia for silkworm production. Since then, it has spread to 42 states in the US and continues to increase in density in those areas. When I think of invasive plants, I think of them like video game stats. Some plants are better at specific things than others, but the most damaging invasive plants are the ones that can put them all together. Whether it be how fast it grows, how quickly it reproduces, and how well it does in disturbed areas really determines how successful an invasive plant can be. The Tree of Heaven is amazing at all of these different skills. For a tree, it grows incredibly quickly at up to 3 feet of growth per year. For reproduction, it can send out more than 30,000 seeds per tree per year. And the plant sends out sprouts from its roots upwards of 50 feet away from the original tree. This tree might be the top dog when it comes to living in disturbed areas and resiliency. You can find it growing on the side of the road, in cracks in the sidewalk, in recently tilled areas, and it secretes a chemical called Ailanthus that kills nearby plants to limit competition. Competition is a huge way that we can prevent plants from spreading, and when it creates this chemical, it really limits the type of competition that we can put around it to limit its spreading. This can result in incredibly high densities of Tree of Heavens in one specific area. If these were the only problems that we had with the Tree of Heaven, it would be bad, but it has a special connection with another Asian invasive species called the spotter lanternfly. This fly uses the Tree of Heaven to lay its eggs on almost exclusively, and it has huge economic impacts. This insect causes plant die-off, and they excrete a substance that promotes mold growth on trees, which is a huge problem for the agricultural industry. This was estimated by the state of Pennsylvania to cause $324 million worth of potential damage annually in the state of Pennsylvania alone. So how can you ID this plant, and what can you do about it if it's on your property? The way I usually ID it in the winter and spring is from its uniquely shaped lateral buds, which I have on screen right now. When it does grow leaves, it has large alternate compound leaves that has between 13 to 40 leaflets on it. The Tree of Heaven isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So what can we do about it? One of the main things is just understanding that we can do things to limit it in the short term, and especially in very sensitive areas. This can mean removing it physically. You can use herbicide, you can cut it down. The problem with cutting it down, though, is that based off of the ability to sprout off the roots, it'll come back. So herbicide is going to be the best option that we have. It's not something that's very popular. People do not like using herbicide, but for a plant like this that has such a readily available energy storage in its root systems that it can bounce back from being cut down, you'll see this, you'll cut down one and then 5 or 6 more will pop back up, kind of like a Medusa situation. So understanding that we're not going to be able to get rid of all of it, but we can try to limit its spread, and especially in these well-established areas that are potentially susceptible to an invasive species like the Tree of Heaven coming in and taking over, we need to be vigilant of plants that we see popping up that don't belong in these habitats. So the Tree of Heaven is going to be my vote for the probably the worst invasive plant out there. Let me know if you have a plant that you think is worse than it based off of a tree. I can think of some other invasive plants that are potentially worse, but as a tree, I think the Tree of Heaven, based off of its connection with the spotted lanternfly, is such a huge problem economically, and it's such an ugly plant. It produces a horrible smell that people compare it to sweaty gym socks. And yeah, let me know your experience with the Tree of Heaven down below, and let me know what topics you'd like me to discuss in future videos. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it if you liked the video. This is the first video of this kind. Hopefully I'm going to be able to record more B-roll footage in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.